This comet is what we call a planet killer.
At this exact moment, I say we sit tight and assess.
Sit tight and assess?
Sit tight.
And then assess. The sit tight part comes first, then you got to digest it. That's the assessment period.
All right, everyone. Don't Look Up. It's the movie we're talking about today. And there's a whole lot to talk about with this movie.
You said a whole lot or not a whole lot?
I said a whole lot. It'd be,
Cool.
be unfortunate if we're doing a podcast. We're like, not a lot to say. Have a good day, everyone.
This will be like 5 minutes. No, this one, yeah, we could talk about it forever. I mean, I could talk about it forever, but I won't. So go ahead, Jace.
Well, so this movie, this was a Renee pick. I had never seen it before.
Can't believe you'd never seen it.
I think I talked about this on our last episode. There's just something about Netflix that, like, when they release something, I'm just like, I'll get to it.
Nobody cares. Yeah, fuck you, Netflix. We're still talking about you, but whatever.
I mean, I think there's some things that as soon as they pop up, I want to watch them. But this movie was not one of them. But I'm glad that I watched it. So this movie came out November 2021.
I think it actually dropped on Christmas Eve last year.
Oh, yeah, you're right. December 24th, 2021. It's a Netflix original movie. The budget for this movie estimated was about $75 million. It was a streaming only thing pretty much. And I mean, at first glance, holy shit, the cast for this movie. Like, I mean, first off, it's directed by Adam McKay, who just everything he does is great. But then the cast, just Leonardo DiCaprio, Jennifer Lawrence, Meryl Streep, Cate Blanchett, Jonah Hill, Tyler Perry, Timothy the Chalamet, Ron Perlman, Kid Cudi, Ariana Grande, and there's more, but just like Jesus.
I know. It's quite the fucking cast, dude. And I feel like everybody really brings it in this movie. I think they all did great. And when I even saw the cast list in the first trailer, I was like, I think no matter what, I'm gonna like this movie because I have so many people like. But overall, this movie's great in my opinion. It's one of my favorites, and it's what made me fall in love with Timothy Chalamet. So
okay, so this is the movie.
This is the movie. Yeah. Yule, his character Yule in this movie just fucking did it for me, man. He really won me over. And fun fact I just found out was that the hair that he has in this movie is his real hair. He grew it out during COVID. He just didn't cut it. And then he did a Zoom call with the director and he's like, I love it. I want you to keep it. And so he just didn't cut it.
I don't know if I believe you. That
It's true. Look it up.
That mullet or whatever it was, I was like, is that a dead possum on his head? What is going on there?
I loved it, honestly. Obviously, they styled it a bit, but
I don't know if I'll ever understand the obsession with the Chalamet.
Is this the only thing you've ever seen him in?
No, I've seen a lot of his things.
Really?
And he's fine.
You haven't seen his jawline?
It's pretty sharp, but really everything
sharp.
I see him in, I was like, he was good. He didn't deter from the movie at all. Like he's fine. But people talk about him like, I don't know, he's the next Leo, and I'm like, I don't get it, but whatever. That's not what we're talking about today.
But maybe we should, because I feel like I have to correct some of your opinions. But we'll just say that we love the Shams here. So
the Shams.
I don't know if that's his name. I just made it up.
The Sham Wow.
Whatever it is, I love it. Whatever it is he's putting down, I think he's magnetic as fuck on screen, and I love every movie I've seen him in, and I would watch him in a million more things, including Bones and All.
You probably will. He seems to be doing a ton of movies. So,
yes, he does.
And it seems like everyone in Hollywood loves him, so he's going to probably keep doing good movies. So, but Renee, I have to ask you, why did you want me to watch this movie?
God, I don't know. I think because I was hoping that you would also agree with me, because like we both also liked Don't Worry Darling, another movie with Don't in the title, but like, and people, I just felt like shat on that movie for a bunch of reasons, none of which had to do with the quality of the movie, even though that's what a lot of people said. I feel like the same thing happened with Don't Look Up. And I don't know if people thought that they were just like, they didn't like the feeling the movie left with them, but I just felt like there was something to be said about like why people responded the way they did, and maybe that really wasn't deserved because I think this movie is amazing personally. So
Okay.
I want to know what you actually thought of the movie.
So I really enjoyed it. I mean, I love pretty much anything Adam McKay touches.
Pervert.
Oh yeah. Touch me. Touch me, Adam.
We got it.
But no, like this movie it was a bunch of things, and that's what I like in movies is when they kind of, you know, make sudden turns or unexpected things, and it keeps you engaged, and I enjoyed all of it. Now, I definitely see why some people were offended or felt attacked by this movie. This movie is unapologetic in its tone.
Yeah, it really is. I do agree with you, but I kind of feel like if you're offended by this movie, you're kind of just proving the point, but whatever. Like I get it, but also like look at yourself maybe because this movie is not even it's just saying like can we just talk to each other and be real for a minute without all this like maybe this shouldn't have a sugar coating on it. You know, the situation that we're in. I think if you just maybe have more of a nihilistic tone on the universe and the world, maybe that's why I respond to it better. Like, I agree with this movie. I think that we are fucked and we should all be fucking scared because we're all gonna fucking die. That's what I think. I agree with that. The way the human race is going, we're not gonna be around that long. Like, what the fuck do I care about an IRA? I don't think it's gonna be around in 60 years. You know what I mean?
So why are we doing a podcast?
Well, that's what I'm saying. For the meantime, I'm gonna fucking have fun and do what I want. I just feel like maybe I just understand the point that this movie's making, which is like, hey, we're all in fucking big trouble and we're all concerned about really stupid shit.
That's what the title should have been. We're all in big fucking trouble, and
We're all gonna fucking die. Like that is maybe the best line of the movie.
When we're all 100% for sure gonna fucking die.
The way that she says it and the way that she freaks out, it really just encapsulates how fucking we should be acting. But no, we're concerned with really stupid things like, oh my God, do you guys think that Harry Styles spit on Chris Pine? It's like, that is the dumbest thing in the world to be concerned about. Like, the planet is dying, you know? I think it's very like in your face about it, but it's like, you know, I think it's kind of pointing at all of us. I don't think the director is looking down on everybody. I think he's just speaking to the truth and like, all of the scientists, they all think, you know, this is honestly like the most seen I've ever felt, they all said, because it's like,
Mhm.
you know, this is how I feel. Like fucking yelling about like climate change and global warming, and everyone's just concerned with making some more money off of the fucking problem first.
Yeah, so I think the way that we should kind of structure this is talking about because this movie does a lot of things. And so I think we can talk about what made us laugh, what made us cry, and what made us think. And I think that the first thing, since we're already talking about it, is the what made us think part.
Yeah, I think that's the biggest part of this movie is that it really does, hopefully, unless you get mad and just like think you hate it, but it's like this should fucking make you think.
So when I was watching this, coming from, growing up, definitely not around the environmental side of life, I immediately thought like, oh yeah, I see how this pisses people off. This is kind of like Don't Worry, Darling, in that if you are easily triggered by the slightest idea that someone is accusing you of being the problem, you probably should not watch this movie because you're gonna get mad. This movie's not really it doesn't feel like it's trying to like change people's minds. It's like it's really just like this is a movie for people that think that we are in this problem, and if you don't think that, then I don't want you to watch this movie.
Maybe you should though, because maybe I think the point of the movie, there is a bit of it where I don't think the main point is to change people's minds, but it should fucking make you think.
It should.
I believe in climate change and all that shit. I know we're fucked. And I know that the people who have all the money and all the power, it takes way too fucking long for things to get done about it. So the people like, and it's not a comet coming towards us, but it might as well be. And I
Yeah.
just felt like, yeah, this movie isn't really like again, like Don't Worry, Darling. It's more just pointing out that the problem exists and saying like, look at yourself, which I don't think is like, oh, how snooty. I mean, a fucking art house movie is like really introspective and like crazy shit like that you're supposed to think about and process. Like I feel like this one's doing it with like a really fun time, honestly. Like I think this movie is really fun overall.
Well, I think it's very blatant in what it's trying to say. Whereas like an art house film, a lot of things can just go over your head. Like another movie that's about the environment, Mother. A lot of that went over my head. I did not realize that this was about the environment until after I like watched some videos. And I'm like, ugh, I'm clearly not very artistic. But
Yeah, okay, I guess. But then again, yeah, maybe this one's just obviously it's like hitting you over the head with it, but it's
Mhm.
like if you also factor in COVID, I do feel like COVID really just proved this movie even more accurate.
Oh
And
yeah.
that the fact that it came out like after COVID had already started, it just kind of felt like people were like, yeah, we know we've seen this. But I was like, I kind of feel like, this just like is the real world playing out like they had planned, right?
Yeah, and I think COVID actually is the larger response than the environment. Like there's a lot of stuff that like people talk about with the environment in movies and things. This movie, while it maybe originally was supposed to be about the environment, I feel like a lot of people took this as talking about COVID.
Exactly.
And people were already riled up from COVID.
Oh yeah.
That actually leads to one of my things. Also, real quick, just to make sure that no one is thinking that I'm not on the environment side. I totally agree with you. People should watch this movie. People should see this perspective.
Sorry, I didn't mean to frame you as the villain there, but good clear up. I think we could both say we're pro environment. We're not
Hmm.
pro COVID, but we are pro like we believe in COVID and you should get vaccinated.
I like this movie, so therefore I am on the environment side on.
I'm a leftist elite.
Yeah. So one thing that came to my mind as I was watching this is, a lot of people are like, "Oh, it's satire," and I actually I think this movie is a bad satire.
Really?
Like, I don't really think it does a good job of being satirical about the environment because usually, like with satire, usually like the main characters are like kind of part of the problem that they are being satirical, and in this case, like
Mm,
the scientists are all like the heroes. Like I always think of Always Sunny, like that is a through and through satire, and the main characters are the worst people, and that's why it works. Or like South Park. But one thing I did think it was really good was it was more of a satire, maybe around like science and society and like the communication between those two things.
mhm.
Like I felt like it was less about the environment. In my mind, it stuck out less about the environment and more about how we as people respond to science. And I thought in that view, I was like, this is a great fucking movie because it really points out how not only like normal people respond to science, but also like politicians, businesses, like the news.
And they all spin it for their own political and they, like, make it all political. It's like science should not be fucking political, but it is. It's like either if you believe science, you're on one side, and if you don't, then you're on the other. And it's like for me, it's like I think this movie is like a remake of Armageddon, right? With a
Mhm.
comet headed towards the Earth, but it's just a modern day version, which is like, yeah, remember in Armageddon when the president says that there's a fucking comet and everyone just goes, yeah, let's do something about it. And it's like nobody has any fights about anything because in the 90s, we could all agree that that was a fucking problem. But now it's like the modern day would try to fucking profit off of it. It would be political gain, and science is now political. So that would be a whole problem. So in my way, it's like, or in my mind, it kind of felt like just like a modern update of like a doomsday movie, which is weird.
Yeah.
But I know it's also, it's very like current and like, I do think it is satirical, but you're right that like the main characters aren't part of the joke. They're the ones who are like the only rational people in the movie.
Yeah.
And if we can't all agree at the bare minimum that a giant comet the size of Mount Everest hurtling its way towards planet Earth is not a fucking good thing, then what the hell happened to us?
You're right with like science is political now. Like there is one party at the moment that seems to align a lot more with science than the other one. The other one more so says that science is constantly changing and all these things and inaccurate and all this. And so inherently it's going to be a very political movie because science is so political. It did make me think, would this movie, like in 50 years, will this movie like be totally different? Like, will people think of this movie totally different if they think about it at all?
If the world is not over in 50 years, yeah, I would say maybe. And if it is, then I think people are gonna go, "Huh, maybe that movie was fucking right."
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm the type of person that I'm like, I just think that every year this movie is just gonna prove to be more and more accurate, personally. It
Mhm.
only has since it came out 1 year ago. So, I mean, who knows? Honestly, the world's probably gonna be over by then, so
Well, and 50 years from now, Netflix is probably going to have been absorbed by some other larger company and
Blockbuster.
it's making a comeback.
They should. People might be into it now. I don't know. But, yeah, I think this movie is just the cool thing about it is, like, that as funny as it can be and as, like, satirical as it can be in parts, I do think, like, it really does make you think, and I think for me, the biggest part of that is the dinner scene at the end.
So this is a good transition. Let's talk about the stuff that made us cry. Because man, that scene.
Thing of it is we really did have everything, didn't we? I mean, when you think about it.
That was powerful. I was watching that scene and I kept like waiting for a joke.
Mhm.
But like there's like no, they are really committing to this ending. I I did not think the world is actually going to end at the end of the
Really?
movie. I was thinking I was like, yeah, something will happen. I was thinking that it's a comedy movie. I was thinking that the maybe the meteor was just gonna slightly miss it. Like they were a little bit wrong, and it's just like no, it just went by. But I was really surprised, and I was really happy. They're like, all right, you committed to the world ending, like yeah. And then that last frame of the slow mo of everything was like, fuck Adam McKay. All right.
I know, and then plus it's like, I think what really, like, solidifies, like, the vibe is, like, when Timothy Chalamet's character just comes out with that beautiful prayer
Hmm.
and just really sells the shit out of it after being, like, used for laughs the entire movie. I think I think he, like, really sells that part, and you're just like, "Fuck."
That's a beautiful moment because like this is a science movie, and kind of going back to that political conflicting thing, like you wouldn't expect a really beautiful kind of like religious moment to happen in this movie. And it was like this little thing of like these two things don't necessarily have to just like hating each other,
Yeah.
you know?
Exactly, there can be some sort of a marriage in the middle if people are, like, willing to maybe talk about these things, and
Yeah.
for me, that last scene really got me, and I feel like Leo especially, like, I love his character in this movie and how anxiety riddled he is and how funny he can be.
Hmm.
But I do feel like he really sells it in his 2 scenes where, like, he has his little meltdown on TV at the very end, and then also at the dinner scene, and I'm just like, "Fuck," he just really sells the shit out of it. You're just reminded how amazing he is. Because the one thing I don't like about this movie is that his wife just takes him back after he's been fucking Cate Blanchett forever, and he shows up literally hours before the world ends. Like, I'd be like, "That's a little sus."
Well, I mean, it's the end of the world and they all know it's the end of the world. So maybe it's just like in that moment, it's like, are we gonna end our lives? Are we gonna end everything in anger, or are we just gonna have one final moment
I
of
guess.
forgiveness? I get what you're saying. I'm just that's how I'm kind of justifying because like it's the whole
Typical
thing of
man,
well,
justifying him cheating, and he's like a total dick the whole movie. I just felt like he didn't earn it enough. I just feel like, man, he really owed everybody a lot more than that, and the kids who are, like, 40 years old, they look like the same age as
yeah.
Leo. They're like, "Oh, hey, dad, glad to have you back." It's like, "Oh, really? He's only been fucking some other woman. How dare you even cheat on Melanie Linsky too? I fucking love her."
Well, to go back on Leo, I do think this is one of my favorite performances of his.
He's really good.
I was not expecting it. Like, because yeah, he starts the movie as this totally like anxiety written, like just incoherent person.
And he's like, "I'm just trying to explain." He's like, "I know, but like you're stressing me out the way that you're breathing."
An earthquake's
You're breathing weird. It's making me
I'm
uncomfortable.
sorry, I'm just trying to articulate the science.
I know, but it's like so stressful. I like trying to like listen.
I don't-
I just love his like the way that he like does that big breath, like I know, and it is fucking hilarious. But it's also like you just really feel like he's like he plays it very well.
Yeah, like we're so used to seeing him be like these really charismatic characters, and like halfway through the movie he kind of becomes that person, like he adjusts to being famous and
He's hot.
the sexiest scientist in the world.
AILF astronomer. I'd like to fuck.
Yeah. Oh man. But like he was honestly, he was great. I was not expecting that.
I think this is one of my favorite of his roles for sure, and I also think this might be the funniest that Jonah Hill's ever been. And maybe this is where we transition into what made us laugh.
No. I think there's a couple other things that we can talk about before we get to Jonah Hill.
Did you actually cry in this movie? Is this what you're about to tell
I
me?
almost did. That final scene was really great. Also the
Really
scene
beautiful.
when the wife confronts him.
You cried
No,
during
no, no,
that?
no. That was a really great scene.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. I was like, whoa, jeez. I feel like I don't know you at all.
No, like that was a really great scene, and like you see Leonardo DiCaprio, like in a moment, it's like a rubber band. He like snaps back to his character at the beginning of the movie, like he gets anxious and like
Yeah.
nervous, and like it was just really great. Also, I thought Jennifer Lawrence was really good. Like the whole thing that she had to do of playing that character so serious throughout the whole movie while all the other characters are not serious about this. She is so good.
But I think she's also like, I think she might be one of the funniest people in the movie. Is like, I was thinking, like, I love her in this movie. I think she's fucking hilarious when she's like, we're all gonna fucking die. It's like, and the whole thing with her and the snacks, the whole snacks debacle is fucking hilarious.
The snacks are free.
What?
The general, he charged us for the snacks, but they're free.
Oh gosh.
Why on earth would he do that?
And she just keeps reading. I'm like,
I've gone over it again and again and again in my head, and I still can't make sense of it. He's a 3-star general. He works at the Pentagon. Why would he charge us for free snacks?
like, I just think that's fucking great.
That was so funny, and that's exactly what it is. It's just reinforcing that people with power enforce their power
Exactly.
however they can. Like this general or this guy he's under the president, so he can't do it there. But like these people that are visiting, he can do it to them.
They charge you an arm and a leg for these things. It's even better the more times you watch it, I swear to God. But I agree. I do think she plays it like really seriously and has a lot of emotion behind her character. But like, there's a lot of funny situations that she's in and that she responds to. And like her whole relationship with Jonah Hill in this movie is fucking hilarious.
The comedic chemistry between those two was so great.
I just love how mean he is to her. I wish they need to do more movies together.
They really should. They would be a great rom-com. Like, can we get the remake of Knocked Up, but with Jonah Hill and Jennifer
A
Lawrence?
remake of Knocked Up could work, honestly, would be maybe better. And I don't know. I think also Jennifer Lawrence and Timothy Chalamet, I loved them in this movie. I thought they were really adorable together. And they had like a surprising amount of emotion that like when they're in the car and he's like, Dr. Mindy, can I be vulnerable in your car? And he's like talking about like, going out on a limb here, but like you're just so special. Like, could we just spend more time together? Like maybe get married? She's like, sure, yeah. And he's like, cool. But, like I really bought their like vibe and connection. I thought it was pretty cute.
Yeah, they were surprising. I definitely thought when she was like, "Fuck it, the world's ending," and they started making out, I was like, "All right, we're not going to see Timothy Chalamet anymore." Like
Yeah.
it's just that, and then he stayed along. He was good.
He was good. He had some hilarious lines. The whole thing when he meets Melanie Linsky and he's like,
Me too. I'm Yule.
Yule.
I'm a Fire Puma 142 on Twitch. You game?
Really doubtful she knows.
Who said I didn't?
Just the way that he looks at her like, you game? It's just so weird, and he comes in so hot about Twitch, and she's just like, what? I think he just nails this movie.
Definitely have to put that sound clip in there.
Oh, yeah, either that or like his, I fucking love fingerling potatoes. Because that is, I quote it all the time, and also I do fucking love fingerling potatoes. Those are hella good.
What are the little potatoes called? The tiny ones?
Fingerling potatoes?
Yeah,
I fucking love fingerling potatoes.
let's get
That reaction was appropriate.
It was appropriate. I say it every time someone's making those things. They're great.
Oh man. So I think this is a good transition for what made us cry to what made us laugh. But I loved so much, like it was really like the first 2/3 of the movie. Like the one side is being totally serious about this thing that's happening, and the other side just not caring at all. It was sad, but also it was hilarious. Like when they go on the news
Yeah.
and Tyler Perry and Kate Blanchett are just like, keep things light around here. So I loved when Tyler Perry was like, so like what would happen if this comet hit a house? Would it destroy the house? They're like, this comet is like the size of Texas, so it would destroy the house.
Yeah, he's like really fixated just on this ex-wife's house, making sure it'll fucking hit there. But I do love that, and then also the fact that like there's just so many times throughout the movie that it's just, I feel like there's nonstop comedy, you know?
Yeah.
I think as much as like this movie is like kind of being like really nihilistic and saying we're all fucked and like kind of yelling at you, it's also fucking hilarious. Like, is this not Jonah Hill's most comedic performance? I think it might be. I love him in Superbad. Don't get me wrong, but like this might be my favorite.
Okay, so you said that to me when you said I have to watch this movie. You're like, I think it's Jonah Hill's best performance. I was like, oh, that is, I don't know. My favorite performance of his is definitely This Is the End. I think he's
So
just
good.
incredible in that. But I think you're right. I think this might be his funniest performance. Like everything he says in this movie, like 100% of the time he hits every shot. Everything he says is just so funny. My favorite line was when the rockets are going off, when they're shooting the nukes. And he's like, oh, Molly's kicking in. Timed that shit perfectly.
Yeah. I was like, dude, that's so fucking so
Timed
good.
that shit perfect.
And this whole thing of like, I mean, he's basically playing Trump Jr. in this movie. You know what I mean? He's just a total like dickhead, but it's like even his quotes about like how hot his mom is as the president. Like if she wasn't my mom, it's like, yeah, it's so good, but it's also like, man, Trump said the same thing about his daughter. That's
Yeah.
the fucked up part. And I do also want to shout out Meryl Streep as the president. I think she's fucking great.
She's really good. Weirdly, I feel like Meryl Streep was actually kind of underutilized in this. Just like her character is just kind of this one thing. She does a great job with it. Don't get me wrong, she does great. But I just feel like she's kind of underutilized.
Probably because like we couldn't handle a lot more of that because like at the time this came out, Trump was still like the president, right? Or like,
Yeah.
no, I guess he wasn't, but like it was too soon. Too soon. He had just fucking got out of there, right? Now we have Joe Biden for.
In his mind, he's still the president because
I mean, of course
he
is.
was still actively fighting at that point.
Yeah, good call. He still had all the paperwork. So yeah, I guess. But I do think like we just probably couldn't handle it more. But she nailed the whole Republican woman
Yeah.
Trump version. I do think it's like, I don't think the Republicans would ever have a female candidate. I just have to say that. I don't think they would ever get behind one female candidate. I think it would have to be a man, personally. And not to say anything about if you're a Republican, but like, come on, don't you agree with me?
That's probably part of the reason why they casted a woman as a tyrannical president.
Yeah, it's so good.
I loved the Jonah Hill ongoing bit of how he had people put black bags over their heads, and he's like,
You know, I did have the FBI put that bag over your head. They don't do that. The CIA does, but I made them do it.
You know, I had a feeling.
It's a good feeling because that is what I did, and it was very funny and cool.
See, that's what I'm saying. I feel like I just need another movie or like 5 more movies with Jennifer Lawrence and Jonah Hill. I think they were like an unexpected, just amazing chemistry. Like, please put them in everything.
I was also surprised at how much I loved Ariana Grande in this movie.
Yeah, she was actually really funny.
She was so funny. And like the whole breakup thing with her and Kid Cudi.
Yeah.
It was just so funny how like they're talking about the world ending, and then they just keep bringing up the relationship and how they broke up, and then like how they get engaged. They have the whole they make up to each other, and then they get engaged on television. And I love the social media breakdown afterwards. It's like, so this is when they got engaged, and
Yeah.
this is this moment, and then this was the engagement when you were talking about the comet. It's like, we had a slight peak when Jennifer Lawrence was cursing,
Yeah.
but in comparison, it really doesn't matter.
Exactly. Another funny thing that I just remembered was like, just to get back on the Jonah Hill, Jennifer Lawrence train, because some of his lines to her are just too perfect. When he's like, he calls her boy with the dragon tattoo, which I fucking love. And when he when they see him and he's like, cool, yeah, thanks for coming in. Thanks for dressing up. It's so good. So needlessly cruel to her. It's great. I love it. He's so funny. And a lot of that, of course, was fucking improv. And I heard Leo DiCaprio was talking about how hard it was to shoot with Jonah Hill in this movie because so much of it was improv. And they just couldn't keep it together.
It's
I wouldn't
incredible.
be able to either.
Like everything he says is just
Every fucking line is hilarious.
it's so funny.
How does he fucking do it? I don't know. I also do think like the billionaire with the Bash Cellular guy, Mark Rylance, that's the actor's name. He's great.
I love when he's doing his like Apple reveal kind of thing, and then the girl's like, "Can I say something?" He's like, "No."
Yeah, he's so fucking good, and he's perfect. But I don't know if you've seen, he was in Ready Player One. He's like the inventor guy who like created that whole thing too, and he's like definitely super fucking weird in that movie. But he's like a good guy, and then this is just like he's super fucking weird, but now he's like really bad guy. But it's like he's the perfect encapsulation of all that shit, and it's like this is literally what would fucking happen.
Yeah.
Like it's funny, but it's like too real.
They have like the disclosure at the beginning of a speech, like, please no eye contact, no flash photography.
No negative facial expressions.
Yeah.
It's like, what?
I really did like that whole kind of it's insane, but like that whole idea of this world ending thing is happening, and people will just change course because a business will pay a lot of money for it to change course.
Even in the face of certain death. And that's really what they're trying to say is happening with like, people switching to like, maybe we should all be having electric cars. Like we definitely should be for the environment, but it's like, that's never going to fucking happen.
Yeah.
Right? People are just stupid and they just don't care. That's the real problem, is that for scientists, I feel like they see this movie and they're like, that's me. I feel like I'm screaming at a fucking wall because nobody's listening to me when they're like telling us this scary shit. And it is hilarious in this movie, but it is also like really poignant, I feel.
Yeah, it's funny, and then you're just like, no, that's pretty realistic.
But I feel like this movie helped me feel like at peace with the fact that we're all gonna die and the world is basically over. Like, no offense to everybody who believes that we're gonna be fine, but like, I really don't think we are. But you know what? I don't care. I think the ending where he says, "We really had it all, didn't we?" I just feel like really sums it up. That like we should take a minute and fucking appreciate what we have, because I really think like things aren't going to be like this for very long. The world's going to be on fire in like who knows how many years, but that's going to happen. Like we should really enjoy what we have in the meantime. And I think it's okay to like be angry about it, because I think this is basically trying to say like we should all be this angry, but we're not. And it's because we're so focused on this stupid other shit. But like I'm guilty of it. We all are. I don't think anyone's above this. And I think that's where people maybe got upset, is like the director thinks he's holier than now. And he did tweet saying like, if you don't like this movie, then like you're the problem. But it's like also like if you felt offended by this movie, then you are kind of the problem. Because like I don't care if you're offended by this movie, we should be able to talk to each other and say, hey, this is a bad thing that's happening and it's scary and it's okay.
I'm sorry, but not everything needs to sound so goddamn clever or charming or likable all the time. Sometimes we need to just be able to say things to one another. We need to hear things.
I remember reading the tweet and thinking people got really upset about this because they thought it was one thing. I don't know if I agree that the tweet actually means that, but it in my head I'm just like, this is the exact reason why you don't fight with someone over text.
It's
Like
the same thing that like is even in this fucking movie when Leo DiCaprio is like fighting with that guy on Twitter. And he's like, this guy doesn't believe into in the scientific method. He's calling me a crackpot. It's like the scientific method was used to create the device you're fucking typing your half-witted conspiracy theories on. And I'm like, I feel like that part is like really real because honestly, if you think about it, there's no point almost any at this point in engaging with people like that because you're just not going to get through to them.
Oh, I'm
Like
100% with you there. I don't do anything on comments or anything. I'm just like,
there's no point.
like people aren't actually talking to each other on that. They're just fighting.
Exactly. And like he's like, I gotta put out the good word. And it's like, I get it, but I also feel like, maybe that's why we should feel a little bit down about where we're fucking headed. Like this movie, I just feel like is making a really good point. And either you agree with it or you're like, that scares me and I don't like it and I don't feel good about it. So this movie sucks. It's like it's easier to say that honestly than to go, huh, yeah, maybe we are all fucked. But you know what? Whatever. If we are, then I'm just gonna enjoy it.
Well, and that's the reason I think why just like the reaction to science, why that stuck out to me more than the environmental piece of just like because we saw this play out with COVID and science, and there's even that one part in the movie where someone's like, "Well, you science said this, and then they said that it was wrong, and now it's something else." They're like, "Well, yeah, that's how science works. Like." We determine things, and then as we collect new information, things change and evolve. And like that was the thing that was held against people like during COVID is like, oh, you said wear masks, now you're saying don't wear masks, and now you're saying wear masks again. And I liked the commentary on just like how we react to science and like the takeaway, because the reality is that like the environmental solution is beyond the individual grasp. Like individual persons can't.
We can't make a fucking difference anymore. It's up to the big guys, and they're not doing their part.
But yes, but one thing we can do as individuals is understand or learn and understand like how we hear science and what that means and how we understand science and as it changes and as like the value of collecting information. And and then them talking about like, was any of this stuff peer reviewed? And they're like, no, people are getting fired because they're trying to review it. And yeah, that was the stuff that stuck out to me. Is like we need to change really like how we react to science, and because science is changing and evolving, and that's important that it does that.
Yeah, I think people are thinking that it's inconsistent, like, you're not telling me the whole story, you're lying. But
Yeah,
it's like, we should just trust scientists. I don't understand why that's political or hard to believe anymore. That's the thing that this movie really made me realize is like, God, we're stupid. We really are, because we can't just listen to them tell us the truth. It's like, what do they have to gain by them lying about this? Why would they lie? They're just fucking doing their jobs and we're yelling at them and telling them how to do it. Like, I'm not a fucking scientist. I can't tell you how to do that shit. I'm gonna trust what they fucking say.
there is like a weird pride that people have with like, I've had this opinion my entire life. It's kind of like when you're the kid back in like junior high, you're like, people are like, oh, I heard this new band, they're amazing. You're like, oh, I've been listening to them before they were mainstream. It's like, I've had this opinion and it will not change. And it's like that's it's not a good way to live. Like,
It's a horrible way to live, unless only if you just like I just don't understand that. But it is true that like some people just will never change how they think. And that's why I'm like, sometime at some point, like how much are we really relying on the scientists to do everything for us? Like we gotta fucking understand and like do our part to like understand the fucking information that they're telling us and respond in a reasonable way and not say no. I just think they treat scientists almost like politicians now, like Dr. Fauci, and it's like, has anyone else ever, like, I mean, who has a fucking problem with a scientist? Like, that just seems backwards as fuck. Like, why? Why would you have a problem with them? It's not like they're a politician. You don't give them money to do something. Like, right?
Yeah, it's
a problem.
It's a problem.
And that's why I think I just like this movie, because I'm like, yeah, I don't know what to do about this problem either, but I agree we're fucked. But I do like the fact that it does like shine a light on like the people who probably have all by now gone insane trying to warn us about things, and they're like, I appreciate that this movie's trying. I don't know if it worked, but at least it fucking tried.
Grateful we tried.
Man, oh man, did we try.
And it didn't work, but I felt like that was pretty realistic, honestly.
Yeah, I think this movie is it's kind of a victim of just the polarization of things right now. Like everything is one way or the other way. And this movie tried to kind of follow that route of like, all right, if you're one side or the other, then like just pick a side. And I think that's why this movie is kind of so divisive, in that you really figure out early on whether or not you are going to watch this movie or if you're just going to turn it off.
I guess so, yeah.
Especially since it wasn't really released in theaters. Like, it's pretty easy to turn a movie off when you're at home. Just like, movie sucked. I didn't pay for a ticket. I'm not going to watch this.
I would be curious, like, how many people like quit after like however long, but I do just that. Maybe it's because I just feel that it's very realistic, and yeah, it doesn't do a lot to try and bridge the gap. It does certain things and try to get you to think, but it's not like out there trying to reach out to everybody. It's not like Chris Evans in this movie.
Yeah, this pin points both up and down. Because I think as a country we need to stop arguing and virtue signaling. Just get along.
One of the best cameos ever.
So good.
So funny. I don't look up or down. I look straight ahead. Like
it was just, I hate when people say that, because it's like, even just saying that means that you're fucking just being a dick. Like, you can't just say that, oh, we should do both. It's like, and then he's like, that's why this movie, total annihilation, is like just for everyone. It's like, but I just feel like after this movie, I was like, I'd be the guy at NASA when everybody's like scrambling because they realize the world is fucked, and he's like, some good dude you don't even see just yells, I'm doing an 8-ball. That's like how the vibe I would have at this moment too.
I'm doing an 8-ball.
I love that guy. I don't know who he is, but he's maybe the best character in the whole movie.
Jonah Hill wrote that. He's just
He
like,
must
hey,
have.
dude, just yell this. But yeah, I think this movie I think it's important. I think people should see this movie. And whether you have a good or bad reaction to it, like if you hate this movie, I'm sorry. But like, I do think this movie is a very interesting and very good movie to see, just to kind of get a different perspective. And, you might hate it, but like, I do think this movie is trying to say something. It's Adam McKay taking the biggest swing possible. And I respect I respect movies that do that. And
Me
so
too.
I think it's a movie that's worth seeing, even if it's not the best movie of all time in your mind. It's a movie worth seeing.
That's like the perfect recommendation I could ever ask for. So thank you. I mean, I'll personally say I love this movie. Gets better every time I watch it, but I get it. It's not everybody's cup of tea, but it's not the fucking Mummy. That's all I have to say. The new Mummy, I feel like, is my new bar for like the worst movie ever made. Like, I think The Room is better than the fucking new Mummy. Okay. And that's for real. Because people actually cared about that movie when they made it, right? Nobody gave a fuck about the new Mummy, and it sucks. And ever since you made me watch that I think maybe watch that movie, watch Don't Look Up. I think you're gonna have a new perspective on it. You might have a new perspective on life. That's honestly, I think my expectations in general have just been lowered to a point where I can't return. And now I think every movie, well, it's better than the fucking Mummy. Tom Cruise, I'm sorry, he's gonna have to do a lot to make up for that. I don't know. I haven't seen Top Gun Maverick, but It's going to have to be the greatest movie of all time in order for me to come back from that.
We will see you next time. There'll be water in the rain. Territories pay fines.
This movie has two endings post credits. They go full Marvel with it.
Yeah, I wasn't expecting that. And I just thought that was an interesting choice. And I feel like with Marvel, though, they usually save the shitty one for like all the way after the credits just to really fuck you in the ass. Like you wait that long and then it's just like, oh, like spoiler alert for Thor, I don't care. But like, oh, it's just Natalie Portman making it to Valhalla. Great. I don't fucking care. Why are we waiting for that? I have to piss like a fucking racehorse. So I hate when they do that. But I do think this one actually made it worth it.
They started doing that when they had two post credit scenes. Like phase one, it's post credit scenes are all important. And then I forget when it was, but it's like as soon as they had two, it's like the first one's important. The second one it's more funny. Just YouTube it afterwards. It doesn't matter.
Exactly. But I still hate it. I hate the principle of it. Anyways.
Both of these are great. The first one, the ship that took all the important people. They land on a planet and they're all naked.
And they're all old as hell, you'll notice. Because of course, only old fucking people could afford to like buy that ticket on one of those ships. Which not a great idea, as it turns out.
Trial chambers were 58% successful, which is much better than anticipated.
No, we only had 47 dead in our sections.
I really love it.
Am I right that was not Meryl Streep's butt? That was a body double?
No, she does not have a fucking tramp stamp. Love the tramp stamp. It's so good. And I really hate all the naked people. It's like, what? Like, God. And also, like, just the fact that, like, they're all just standing around. I was like, I did not expect this movie to end with a bunch of old naked people and on some new planet, right?
Yeah, I'm glad that it was short. And I was like, please don't go full, who's the director of Midsummer and...
Ari Aster?
Yeah, like don't go full old Bush like he always does in all of his movies.
Oh God, I know. There's too much Bush in his movies.
Bush really and penis everywhere.
Yeah, very upsetting. I don't need to see it that much, but this movie, there was still a lot of it that I did not expect at the last fucking like post-credit scene. But I will say I did love that all of them basically, the implication that they all get eaten by those fucking Bronterocs or whatever the fuck those creatures are. I thought that was funny. And I was like, good, you guys fucking deserve it, you pieces of shit and idiots. But it was good. I'm glad it was in there.
Yeah, it was good. And it paid off the whole scene that they had of these companies having so much information on us that they can predict our deaths. And they're like, oh, you're going to die from a bronchitis. Like, what's a bronchitis? He's like, I don't know.
Yeah, we don't know.
And then when she gets killed, he's like, I assume that's a bronchitis.
It was pretty good. Pretty good. And then, the last one is pretty great because as they're like when they're on the ship, she realizes that she forgot Jason, aka Jonah Hill, her son. He was still fucking waiting back at NASA after everyone left, just going, she said she'll be right back. She's coming right back.
The implication being he's the last surviving human being on the planet.
Coming out of the rubble, and his phone still works.
And what does he do?
He's live streaming, and he's like, yo, coming at you, the last man on Earth.
What's up, y'all? I'm the last man on Earth. Shit's all fucked up. Don't forget to like and subscribe.
Like and subscribe.
Like and subscribe. And that's definitely going to be like our ending now. I think now that you've finally seen the movie, I think you can appreciate.
Oh, yeah.
Because people would still fucking be doing that. Last person on Earth. Like and subscribe.
God, so fucking great.